The Everything Sequel podcast is brought to you by 2T Fitness and the Vegas Beer Guys.
Mike and Tom are washing their mouths out with soap because the Everything Sequel podcast contains explicit language. Hello and welcome to the Everything Sequel podcast. This is the Robocop edition. Today we're talking Robocop 3. Oh boy, my name is Michael Shantz. I'm from the How Dare You Awards. Joining me, the man with the prime directive to deliver you a line right now, Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions. Say hello, Tom.
What's it like being a rocket scientist? Introducing the stable of Larry David sitcom actors in this film.
Yes.
Which is staggering.
This is my...
That is Jeff Garlin.
You're right.
I know my impersonation probably didn't tip you either way. Because he's really difficult to do because he's raspy, but high-pitched.
Right.
So
he kind of sounded like your Harrison Ford.
I know. It's really hard. It's deceptively hard to do a Jeff Garlin impression. You think you'd just look at him and you get the idea, but no.
Yes. Audio-wise, it's difficult to do. You need the visual.
Incidentally, do you know what the name of his character is in this film?
Oh, that's right. Donut Jerk.
There you go. You made a note of it too.
Yeah. I had
Which
it
is
somewhere in my
interesting
notes.
because the character is in no way jerky, nor is he serving donuts.
Right.
That's not a donut shop, it's some kind of diner.
I want to say he's eating a donut at some point.
You think so? I don't ever remember. When I saw that, I thought, that is not an accurate representation of that bit part character.
Yeah, but
you want it to read. You want to know who that is.
Yeah, right.
As soon as you see that line, and that was not who that was.
Right. He did seem completely sensible.
I say Donut Jerk might be a perfectly accurate description of Jeff Garlin himself, but it is not of this character.
I think that's my favorite thing about this entire movie is watching all the secondary characters and the actors who are playing them, who we have come to know and love as great character actors.
All of them.
Just watching them on the struggle bus for this poor, shitty little movie is... I kind of revel in it. Like, as an actor, I just keep thinking to myself, I get it. You know...
Yeah.
You gotta have something good to work with, or you're gonna look like an asshole.
It doesn't matter.
It's not your fault.
Yeah. It doesn't matter how many Bradley Whitfords are around the corner.
Right.
If you're not working with good material, it's gonna show.
Yeah.
And this is bad material.
Oh, man. I mean...
But yeah, I mean, as we were saying, Jeff Garlin from Curb Your Enthusiasm. We got Daniel von Bargen from Seinfeld.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Cayuga.
We have CCH Pounder from The Shield. We have Stephen Root from Everything.
It's not a Larry David property, but I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, you were making the Larry David
as
line,
Stephen Root, who appeared in an episode of Seinfeld, and the guy who holds up the Donut Jerk is also a recurring character in Seinfeld. But haven't.
I was trying to think if Bradley Whitford,
his character's name or his or the actor's name.
Right.
He's also in Pirates of the Caribbean. He's Mackenzie Crook's scene partner.
But there's also just sort of the general NBC primetime actors.
You're so right. It's the NBC primetime players.
Yeah, exactly. You got Bradley Whitford and Jill Hennessy. You know, Shane Black is in this movie somewhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's...
I think he's one of the cops. His name's Donnelly.
Yeah. I think maybe in... as I was watching this, I thought, I wonder if there's like like a day of those Law and Order marathons where you would see every single one of these actors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like if you watched for enough hours, you would get all of these actors.
If you watch enough Law and Order in a single day, you will see an actor from every major television show.
Oh, well, certainly, yeah.
You know, you're going to see people from The Sopranos. You're going to see people from The West Wing. You're going to see people from The Wire. They're all, they're all on that show.
You're going to know who was available to work in New York in a particular year.
Yeah. Well, and obviously, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about the deep bench cast of Robocop 3, a 1993 movie directed by Fred Dekker.
Didn't we say nice things about sequels from 1993 at some point on this podcast?
Mm-hmm.
I take them all back. I don't think it was the year I thought it was.
Don't let this movie bring down your thoughts about 1993 and its other sequels. If not
this, then what?
Fred Dekker, he's directed mostly television, but I saw he did something called Night of the Creeps, and then he did a movie called Monster Squad.
Oh, yeah.
Which I do know has some kind of weird cult following.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing that as a kid, and people still talk fondly of it. I think that I think that the reputation of that film is fair to middling.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have clocked a Monster Squad in his resume.
Right, exactly. This movie, however, RoboCop 3 has 6% on Rotten Tomatoes.
In other words,
sounds
zero
fair to
cult
me.
following.
Zero.
Unless you really stretch that definition of cult.
And
you gotta really work hard to make the cult appeal.
I'm telling you, on a budget of $22 million. That bears out with how much money it made, because on a budget of $22 million, it had an opening weekend of 4.3. Boy, did they really trick people for that first weekend. And then in the USA and the world, $10.6 million. Again, we have another fantastic example of a movie that killed the franchise.
Well, for within the medium of cinema, I mean,
right.
I
guess because there is a 2014, I think, reboot.
Yes. So it killed it for a significant period of time, but I believe in the interim we had a RoboCop TV series.
There was a series,
and also an animated RoboCop series as well.
Yeah.
So the property did okay overall intermediately, but and I believe there's a new RoboCop.
I keep hearing
on the way. Yeah,
I keep
it's one
hearing
of those. I think
those rumblings, but I mean,
you know what was funny, and I think speaking of 1993, I remembered back to a comment it made on a previous podcast, because when we did not do Sister Act 2 back in the habit for
the single sequels,
sequels, because we knew a Sister Act 3 was in the works.
Yeah,
and I remember saying, you know, if Whoopi Goldberg keeps making ill-informed comments about the Holocaust, it might stay a single sequel. She's now doubled down on that, so update. Sister Act 3 may not be happening, guys.
We might have to go back and readdress 1993 and put Sister Act 2 into our rankings.
Apparently she doubled down on exactly what she said the first time in trying to explain what she was saying the first time. Which is that classic sort of celebrity apology that turns into a defense
something
of what
ridiculous.
A defense of the wrong thing you said.
Yeah.
Also known as a Louis C.K.
All right. Well, we'll move on from Celebrity Corner.
Sure. It's relevant. It's semi-relevant to 1993.
So let's talk about the opening of this movie. What's that?
Speaking of 1993, those computer graphics have made some advancements in those 3 years since
You like
Robocop
that?
2. We no longer need to show them on a tiny monitor.
Right.
We can create an entire cityscape with computers.
Did you also notice, because my first notice that we start with some ominous music, and then we have a Star Wars pan down.
Oh, that's true. Yes, I did notice that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but that's interesting because let's compare this directly to the opening of Robocop 2, where you're supposed to think the movie's beginning, but it's actually just a commercial.
Mm-hmm.
And they sort of half attempt the same thing here, and I think that pan is part of it. But they give up very quickly.
Yeah, right.
They show you that new, I mean, what at the time would have been cutting edge computer simulated city. And then they immediately
I'm not sure even at the time it was.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I mean, you know, it fills the screen.
Okay. Fine.
I'll go that far.
If that's the bar.
That is the bar when it comes to this film.
All right.
So it kind of misses the point that you need to sort of play. You need to play along a bit more. You need to hide the ball a bit more, because it's immediately clear that this is a commercial in a way that the opening of the last
right.
Where it strung you along with the John Glover and the the police procedural cold open bit.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like evidently a commercial, and then they just pull away from it immediately as soon as they get into media break, and we're in the home of a family that we've never seen before.
No, yeah, right.
Two of whom we won't see again. And I think didn't we address in the last episode that it feels like, even though it absolutely can't be deliberate, that they're picking up from the end of RoboCop 2, that this is the next stage of the Delta City development project.
Right. So there's that portion of it, and then I remember saying in our last episode that the Omnicorp logo look kind of like a swastika, and it looks like there's German soldiers.
Yes.
And I have a note here. One of my first notes is, oh, more German soldiers. So I think they're going for that connection. And then I mean,
they certainly read as Gestapo, don't they?
Exactly.
From the outset. With that.
And then I have a note here that says it's kind of a cold open, but like 4 minutes. Like it's like a 4-minute cold open.
Right. It's as I said, you know, I watched this once thinking it was RoboCop, and that was very confusing. Yes. Another thing, my notes are full of half compliments that I later corrected. I later took away the half point. And this is my first one here, because I had a positive point of the child doing the homework on the laptop, because I thought, oh, that's a pretty accurate anticipation of how education and technology will combine in the future. But that's not what they're building here. They're building the idea that she's a tech genius, not that she's a normal school kid. When in fact, any normal school kid in our time has a laptop to work on, provided by the school often.
But one of my favorite things about this movie is the movie seems to say that she's a genius, yet she's not doing anything genius-like.
Well, also in this first scene,
I'm a computer novice, and I could do the things that she's doing in this movie, I think.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
It also doesn't like it's only retrospectively that I know she's on a laptop in the beginning, so we know she's a computer genius, because she doesn't know what a sin wave is. And she's doing like advanced algebra. And I mean, I would struggle to recall in my adulthood what a sin wave is, but I'd expect a so-called child genius to maybe pick that up a little quicker.
Yeah, I kind of had the similar feeling when she plugged into the robot. I thought, well, I could control the robot if I plugged into it.
I mean, it's one step above speak and spell, right? It's just kind of
it's not a true hacking situation.
You
plug into it and it says something like
the robot says the word.
Yeah. You plug into it, and it says something like, "What do you want me to do?"
She just had the foresight to steal a HDMI cable from a house before it was destroyed.
Yeah.
So she can connect to all the robots around the city.
Oh, mercy. Now, am I right?
Not usually.
How dare you? Do we ever even see the title at the beginning of this movie?
Yes, it comes up. Well, it comes up backwards. So as the riot ensues, not the riot, as the rehabs, as they're known, the British-led Gestapo police advance on the what will become Delta City.
Yeah.
That neighborhood. 3 fires onto the screen.
Okay.
And then it's joined by the word Robocop. So they can't even get that right. Is basically.
Is that after the car chase?
Which no, maybe
before,
no,
right?
it's before. It's before.
Okay.
I think you're right with your 4-minute cold open.
All right.
Um.
We were talking off air. It's hard for me to decipher my notes.
and as I said to you, take them all literally.
Yeah.
Don't read too much into them.
Oh,
you probably
man.
wrote down what happened on screen.
Yeah, I gave this movie a half point when that car chase started because I thought the beginnings of this have, television level car chase competency. I thought this isn't, until you get to the end.
Of course.
And then I have a note here. Was Ann Lewis, was she called a dumb broad? Doesn't another cop call her a dumb broad?
You're all the way into that. God, I've got so much to talk about before that.
Oh, okay.
I'm not at the police chase yet.
Okay.
I mean, because...
Well, yeah, I mean, sorry. We've jumped ahead.
It's fine. I'm
the
kid...
kid...
Just really Go on.
The kid gets lost. Does the kid have parents?
She has parents, yeah.
She just gets Oh, wait, that's right. Okay,
she gets separated from them, and then later
she gets separated from them because the wrecking ball comes in.
But they died in the wrecking.
Yeah, that's right.
Because well, I mean, we're burying the lead here. This is now a kids' film.
Yeah, right.
Because our protagonist is a child.
Right.
And
we're basically going to see the movie through her eyes.
Through her eyes, and we don't see Robocop for 15 minutes except as a toy.
Mm-hmm.
And she recovers the... Yeah. So it's, I mean, it starts like Empire of the Sun, basically. She's separated from her parents. And it's that kind of story, which is not what we're used to in Robocop.
Yeah.
And when you add that to the PG-13 rating and the sort of the general change in, there's a kind of whimsy about the musical score of the soundtrack,
right,
that immediately tells you you're in a kids film. She ends up, she gets swept up with CCH Pounder. She's swept up with the motley crew of terrorists. I'm going to say.
Yeah, right. That's what they're being called.
Who the previous 2 films told us not to like, and now apparently they're our heroes.
They're our heroes, right.
And
in this movie, they kind of remind me of Dennis Leary's gang in Demolition Man.
Yeah.
Except they don't live underground. Well, actually, they do live underground quite a bit.
It's the same year, right, as well? Demolition Man, I think, is 93. So that's, neither was borrowing from the other. But it was just happening, right?
Yeah.
It was just, it was
what
in
was
the
going
air.
on in Hollywood at the time.
I really don't know. But I have a note here about this van of character actors that were introduced to us. Like, they would make a great traveling theater company.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think? Von Bargen, Pounder, Stephen Root. You
good.
Could do pretty much any play in the history of the world with those
right.
3. But they break into a OCP facility.
It grabs some guns,
which is now now protected by the disused...
The main villain from the first movie.
Right.
Not the main villain, but like the main robot villain.
It's never said, but is the subtext that he's been demoted to a security guard?
Yeah, exactly.
Because, if it is, that's the film I want to see.
Right. And what I like about it is that this movie is saying to that Sentry robot, this is all you're good for, except it's not even good for that.
Yeah.
Because it gets taken over quite easily by the child. As we said, the child plugs into it.
So there's some deleted scene between Robocop and Robocop 2 where a supervisor goes up to the Robocop and says, "You're going to bust you all the way down to security."
Yes.
Wow. It's, and just to show how, the huge inversion that our villains have become our heroes and vice versa. Literally, the police. Right. The police are the villain, very clearly the villains, because they're led by a British person. And
as we all know,
the activists, that were marauding gangs in the first two films, are now our heroes. And CCH Pounder has a line where she just says of something she's got. Or one of them says, "I stole it off a dead cop." Mm-hmm. It's like, think about how much the first two films made about how much real estate they spent on the idea of cop killers.
Yes,
and now they're just brushing it off as a joke.
They're just... It's like a video...
The entire first film is about a cop killing.
Yeah, and now... and now it's sort of the equivalent of that video game thing where you kill someone and you get to take their stuff once they're dead.
I think it's... So this is where I have... this is where I have my first Poochie note. Of which there are minimally 3. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about in the Homer Simpson Itchy and Scratchy.
I know the Poochie episode, yeah, obviously.
Yeah. So he at one point...
But I'm racking my brain to figure out...
So when
Because I never thought about Poochie once during this movie.
I thought about him a lot. I thought about him a lot because at one point in this Simpsons episode, Homer Simpson, who's playing a new character in Itchy and Scratchy called Poochie, which is unpopular because it's badly written and crammed in.
Right.
Comes
He's got to go home to his home planet.
Well, he comes to the studio with a set of notes about how to make Poochie better. And one of them is that when Poochie's not on screen, everybody should be asking, Where's Poochie? Where did Poochie go? Now, I first put this as a joke note that, there must have been someone giving the Poochie note behind the scenes, because before we see Robocop, everyone's standing around going, "Where's Robocop? Have you seen Robocop?" This happens 3 times in the film.
That's amazing.
So someone is legitimately behind the scenes giving that note that was later parodied by The Simpsons.
Maybe that's where they got it from.
Not to mention that there's no Robocop for 15 minutes.
Right.
And I think part of this is it not being Peter Weller.
Yeah, I remember...
They need to cushion the blow of this new actor with as many legacy characters as they can.
Yes, exactly.
Before he appears on screen.
So I remember...
You blink.
I remember thinking that, and... I'll just briefly jump ahead, but I remember thinking, because after the whole car chase and they take him back to headquarters, I remember being surprised that the face was off, or the helmet, the front of the helmet was off, and that we were seeing his face as early as we did. I thought they were going to hide it for much longer.
He is introduced in that sort of George Lazenby on Her Majesty's Secret Service, let's see the defining characteristics of Robocop. Before we see the new actor playing him.
Yeah.
And let's focus on what makes him look like the Robocop we know, which is that his and Weller's mouth are basically identical.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where the resemblance ends, really. I don't want to give this guy shit because this was a poison.
It's an
chalice.
unenviable task, first of all.
And he does fine, but
yeah,
there is a gravitas missing that is simply through not having.
Well, I think you referenced it in one of our episodes where you talked about just Peter Weller's star power,
which you only learn through seeing this. Like,
yes,
you don't
exactly.
really
Right.
Notice it until it's gone.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting. I also resent the way that Lewis is reintroduced in this film, having to fend off this fucking yuppie type.
Yeah, right.
Because it's sort of like, again, it's bad screenwriting. Like, she doesn't need to be reestablished as a feminist heroine. She's been that for 2 full movies.
Right. Yes. We didn't forget.
It's insulting to the character, and it's insulting to our intelligence as an audience to restack this for us. It's like, that's who she is. Like, just bring her, just reintroduce her. We'll figure it out. And speaking of insulting,
I have the same note.
Splatterpunks.
Yes, I know. I wrote down, oh no, teens with mohawks.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like, are these from the not too distant future, or are they time travelers from the 1970s? Because they look like OG punks.
Yeah.
In fact, they look like, if you put the word splatterpunk into one of those AI art applications, I think this is what comes up.
This is what would come up.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I kind of understood the rationale of let's re-meet Lewis, let's re-meet Reed. Before we have this, we slip in this new actor as Murphy. But as you're saying, they're like, there's his face, deal with it. So,
yeah, right.
And I think the other way that they try and help the audience out in adjusting to this new Robocop actor is they at least make his surrounding armor gray again.
Right. Yeah. I was going to.
We loop back to the original gray.
Yes. He's no longer blue.
It's sort of like you don't really notice how blue he was in the last film until he goes back to being gray.
To gray. Well, and I also, because the end of this whole chase nonsense.
Yeah.
I wrote down dumb car stunt off garage because there's no, RoboCop. Well, RoboCop's chasing all the people that just got all the guns.
Yeah,
so he's chasing Stephen Root and CCH Pounder and the little girls with them. But then he finds out that Lewis is in trouble, so he turns back around and he disobeys a direct order because he's going to help his partner. So he drives on scene, but instead of just driving right up, he goes into a parking garage and we see him circle and circle and circle and circle and circle.
Yeah.
And then get to the top and then ram through some concrete and then fall down. It's like so much business going on to pretend to be action-packed as opposed to just, letting him do the shit that RoboCop does. And it comes off as kind of comical.
It really does, yeah.
Yeah.
There's the 1993 of it all is very present.
Yeah.
It's omnipresent. When the guy is on fire, you feel the danger of knowing that guy's really on fire.
Right. Because
you can see the actor wincing as they move. You can sort of see the stunt go wrong in real time. It's the Kane Hodder effect. It's like the
right.
That guy's in trouble. You looking at it. When you see anything, I don't know, post 1999 with someone on fire. You're sort of like, it could be either. When it's 1993, you know that person is either horribly burned or dead.
Or dead.
And speaking, this really will. I mean, we'll talk more in a more concentrated fashion about Japan. But
I
mean,
we have no choice.
It is interesting that this really is the period in cinema of Japanese businessmen threatening American workers on a video screen.
Yes, very much so. Absolutely.
This is, Back to the Future Part 2 and this. And if there is another example, I guarantee you it doesn't happen after 1993.
Well, and I mentioned Rising
It's
Sun.
got to be one in Rising Sun. The amount of Japan and videos in that, there's got to be one scene of that. Go on, you were saying, sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say that I had, I had mentioned Rising Sun in one of our episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, and when we go back to
and
OCP,
now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure Rising Sun is a 1993 movie.
Yeah, it is. It totally is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to headline it, we can talk about it in more detail as the examples come up. If cinema is, if we're gonna go by cinema, America is shit scared. Japan is gonna take over the country as some kind of colonizing empire,
right?
Through their businesses,
right?
That's Sony what I mean. That's like the central fear, isn't it? It's present in so many movies from that period. I don't know how much it reflects reality. Like I didn't live here at that time, and I was very young. You did. Did you walk around thinking that Japan was gonna Japanese were gonna parachute in and take over America?
Not ever once.
Because if you were a historian going back to the center, you'd be like, "Oh my God, they really thought Japan was going to take over America."
I think if you were just a regular person, you just thought that they made better stuff, better cars, better VCRs, better Walkmans, better
And American popular culture just translated that into they're coming for our jobs and our money and our lives. Right? I mean, that's what happened.
It does seem so. All right. Why don't we take a break?
Crazy. Yeah. Because this is where I got my first Atomo note. So I think we're gonna have a lot to say about.
We're gonna have plenty to say.
This week's guest, Robocop.
So funny. All right, we'll get into it when we come back. Right after this. Does the coronavirus have you feeling oogie? Have you been sitting on your couch for weeks? Nay, have you been sitting on there for months? Well, it's time for you to get back in shape. Check out 2AT Fitness. You can find them on Instagram. You can find them on Facebook. 2AT Fitness was started by Tina Bernard. She is ready and raring to go to help you get back into the shape you want to get into. They've got all kinds of classes. They've got outdoor in-person classes. They've got online classes if that's what you prefer. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get back in shape. You're going to find a variety of exercises. You're going to have strength training, cardio, weightlifting, even fun 5-minute burnouts that will push you to your limits. So get off the couch, get into shape. Go ahead and check out 2AT Fitness. Tina Bernard has got you for all your needs. I know her personally. She's fantastic. You're not going to meet a better person to help you become the new you. Check it out. Here we are. Tom and I are back again, chatting about Robocop 3.
We haven't stopped talking about why the fuck Japan, like even off mic, we're like, why the fuck was America so scared of Japan?
Just like, what was
some kind of projected guilt over the atom bomb, Pearl Harbor? Like, I mean, what's going on here?
Yeah, we're talking a good almost 50 years.
Yeah.
Since Pearl Harbor, and yet it's still on our minds. Apparently,
yeah, it's crazy. It all comes out.
It's in our subconscious writ large, because it's in all of our cinema.
The monster of that subconscious is apparently Otomo.
Yeah.
Who, now, let's talk Otomo, because he's in his own movie. It deserves a separate discussion. He's not in this movie, really. He's a character that seems to exist only in reshoots.
Yeah.
He has zero connection to the main narrative.
To me. If someone was to tell me that, like Back to the Future style, like Back to the Future 2 style, where you shoot Michael J. Fox as a woman, and then shoot Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly, and then you put the films over each other or whatever they do, and then so that they're together. If you told me that Hitomo was like shot completely separate from all other actors in this movie, I would believe it without a single problem. I would not have any hesitation.
And if it was Back to the Future Part 2, there would also be a Japanese businessman abusing someone over a video screen.
Well, you kind of get that with Mako.
No, that's what I mean. Like, the crossovers are infinite.
Right. Except I can't understand.
I don't want to skip. Yeah, I think we're going to make the same. I think we're about to make the same point. Right, but fine. Go ahead. I want to see what you say.
Well, I was going to say. I mean, you don't find out until the end of the movie, but it seems like Mako or Mako.
I don't know.
All right.
I would go Mako.
Okay, Mako. It seems to me that so he's sort of the overlord. Wait.
Yeah.
Is he separate from Omnicorp or is he Omnicorp?
No, I mean, again, this is all my work, not the film.
Yeah, but, right. Exactly, because I'm.
Let's assume, right, and this is where the anti-Japanese stuff comes in. Let's assume his company bought Omnicorp.
That's what it seems like to me, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So he's the head of the conglomerate that owns Omnicorp.
Right.
Again, nothing in the film to tell us this, by the way. Could throw in a line or two, but that's how it seems to me.
All right. That was my assumption as well. And he seems to have this evil plan, right? And part of his evil plan is
his plan doesn't. Well, you lost me at plan, but go on.
Well, I mean, because
it might be evil, but I don't know what his plan is.
Well, because he's at least sending an evil robot to take care
only
of some,
in reshoots
to take care of some business. But at the end of the movie,
but that robot doesn't interact with anyone from the film.
I know, but
I was gonna say that why do they need that dubbing translation? That sounds like a speak and spell.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, right.
When we know he speaks perfect English from an earlier scene,
and from all of his other work.
Also, I also had this is another thought I had about Otomo. First was that he exists entirely in reshoots. The second thought I had about Otomo,
you know who he looks like?
Drifting, we'll save that. But
okay,
while I was drifting in this. This film, I thought, was he originally filmed? Was he originally supposed to be a robot? Was there a point at which during filming they decided he was not? He was a robot?
No, my assumption was he always was a robot.
I understand, and that's what the film ends up with.
Yeah.
But I could imagine a world where those scenes start getting filmed before they knew he was a robot. Halloween 3 style.
I see. Oh, man. Wow.
Or even Operation Midnight.
Uh-huh.
From The Office.
Yes, right.
As the robot butler. Oh, I guess I did make him a robot after all. So that was my second thought. And the third thought I had was that this was a late in the day kind of knee-jerk response to Robert Patrick in T2.
Oh, that's interesting.
That they needed a humanoid robot. Well, not to say Robocop isn't humanoid, but a cyborg, basically, like So I had all those thoughts while I was thinking, while I was trying to figure out why Otomo was in the film.
Well, see, because he looks more to me like not so much thunder, but rain or lightning from like Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
I got that vibe.
Yeah.
Except
just to make it clear, if it is a response to Robert Patrick in T2, it failed horribly.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to think I'm making a comparison there, only in intent, not outcome.
If that was what you were going for, not well done.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So, yes, in the movie that he is in by himself, he is chasing our new heroes, which is not Robocop, but the rebels.
Yes.
So it's CCH Pounder and her gang of merry men.
Exactly.
Plus a kindergartner,
because it's her motley crew and an orphan child.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Homeless activist terrorists.
Mm-hmm.
Who are heroes. Yeah,
I also have a note when they take Robocop back to the precinct. I have a note here that says, we're still having an argument as to whether or not he's a person or a robot.
So it's the same dilemma every time, just rearticulated slightly. It's barely rearticulated in this one.
So annoying.
The scene between Bradley Whitford, who is called Fleck in this film, but who the fuck cares?
Yeah.
Bradley Whitford. Bradley Whitford in glasses. And Dr. Lazarus.
Mm-hmm.
When again,
there's an awful lot of
said,
toxicity.
Dr. Lazarus, I thought he was joking because she brought him back to life. But that's actually a name.
That's her name.
So it's not a joke. Again, I take that half point away. And that scene is all, again, like, insultingly restacking the Robocop lore for us. You're in Robocop 3.
Right.
Okay? If you've made it this far, you got to grips with the idea of what Robocop is.
Yes.
I think.
In our last movie, we went ahead and added 400 different new directives and then had to get rid of them all through Frankensteinism. Yep. Like, we know who he is now. We've got it. It's he's got his 3 prime directives, and we're good to go.
Plus, now that he's so do we have the same thing where when he sees the child he thinks of his own family? Does that actually happen, or have I Mandela affected that?
I don't have a note, so I'm not sure. Oh, wait. No.
Maybe that's a moment of nuance and subtlety in the film, then. Because
I doubt it.
That his attachment to the kid is because he's, can't see his own son.
Right.
Who's like, I don't know, 25 by now, something like that. I don't know how time works in these films. Speaking, well, and again, like, I've just got scattered through here 1993-isms, anti-transhumor.
Mm-hmm.
When we first.
But we've dealt with that plenty in the late 80s and the early 90s. We have those notes in all the movies we've done. It's in all of them.
It's your basic anti-sex worker comedy, but they layered in a bit of anti-trans humor in there as well.
Yeah.
Because you can't just reintroduce Reed. You have to introduce him in the midst of a joke.
Yeah.
Because he's not a comedic character. And again, it's really, and this is an attack on Robocop 2 as well. It's really mushy as to who we're supposed to be behind in both these sequels.
Yeah.
Like, where's the moral center? Okay,
right.
Because the police seem like stone cold villains at this point. So where do the precinct officers stand in all this? I mean, I know there's some kind of evil annex to the station, right? Where the Nazis work.
Well, but they're separate, right? I mean, they work for Omnicorp, so they're a different deal.
But so do the police. The police are.
I know.
That's what I don't understand.
I know. I understand, but
I don't get it. I don't understand.
I guess all I was saying was they're never in the same building.
No.
The Nazis
but
seem
it is
to
the
come
same
from
building.
somewhere
it's just
else.
An annex. They literally say, I don't know what the line is, but it's something like, "Oh no, the Nazis work in the shed over there."
What?
But it's attached to the building.
Oh, I
think.
Don't remember that.
Okay.
All right. That makes this movie even worse and more fantastic.
Yeah, I know. Here's my note verbatim I wanted to read to you. Now, don't quote me on this, but I think they might be setting something up with this body armor dialogue.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I have the same
when someone shouts to Lewis as she leaves, "Hey, you forgot your body armor!"
I'm good. Because my note after that is, well, I say we have a showdown at the church, and I wrote, we have a big fat death scene. I wrote big fat a lot in my notes. Big fat stupid attacks, big fat death scenes, big fat terrible line readings. But
this is the big mama's house of RoboCop movies.
Well, what's funny to me about this death scene is that it comes early enough in the movie for me to think that they wanted to have like a big swing for their movie. But
yeah, for sure.
Well, it comes late enough in the movie, rather. It comes late enough in the movie that that they were going for a big swing, but also comes early enough in the movie for me to think, did Nancy Allen just not want to do this movie, and she agreed to do this, like, this much of a movie?
I believe both of your points are true.
Yeah.
I think there's the Venn diagram of those 2 points is what we see on screen.
Yeah,
absolutely. We talk a lot on this podcast about reverse engineering story points.
right.
But this is like front and reverse. This is forward and reverse engineered simultaneously.
Right.
So they plant the seed of the body armor, and then she's going to a church.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, there's only one thing that can happen at this point, right? There's no
subtlety.
The clues are there.
Yeah.
For us as viewers.
And as I had said, I hadn't seen this movie before, so when I got the body armor line, I thought, hey, wait a second.
Yeah.
Am I going to see Lewis for 5 more minutes? And that's exactly what happened.
And again, that's sort of half point of credit that I would give them for killing off a major legacy character when and where they do in the film. I take away because you see it coming a mile off.
Right, exactly.
And it's engineered in such a way that it could only be a death because it's a fucking church. So they're going to have the scene where he carries her, to her grave.
Right.
Like, it's going to happen.
Sorry, I was snickering there. Not over her.
Again, I take that half point away.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry. You're still, you're well in the minuses by now, Robocop 3, but...
Oh, yeah.
So you're never getting out of that you're never getting out of the minus hole.
Right.
Okay?
Not...
But you could have had, a significantly...
You could have gained a half point.
Lower minus than you did.
Right.
And this is where I have this movie's double inversion of RoboCop. It's a double imbas because RoboCop aligns himself with the criminals.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's an inversion.
That's an inversion of the first film. But in the second film, we had a criminal who became a RoboCop. So I think it's a double. I think it's that was that inversion. And so again, I'm not sure what we're inverting, but something's being inverted.
Sure. Part of it maybe is that RoboCop is becoming a criminal. But he doesn't really become a criminal in the eyes of the other cops. The cops start to take, by the end of this movie, the cops are going to be fighting side by side with.
And again, that's classic. RoboCop scapegoating, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
It's always the wild card. There's always like a wild card within the organization. It's never the organization.
Yeah.
So it's not the cops' fault. It's not OCP's fault. It's whoever
somebody goes rogue.
Well, it's the rogue of the week, Ronnie Cox.
Yeah.
Then it's Dan O'Hurley's mistress.
Right.
And now it's John Castle.
Mm-hmm.
As the British Gestapo guy.
And I think we were just talking. Yeah. I think we were talking off air, right? Because I said I think.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out who John Castle is because you think he'd be bigger than he is, but he isn't.
Right.
When you first see him, you think,
"Oh, I've seen him in a lot of
stuff."
stuff.
Got famous.
That's what you think, yeah.
Yeah, But really, it is just a series of British TV dramas from the 80s and 90s.
All right.
He didn't break in the way that some did.
Maybe it's just because he looks like Henry Rollins. So I think I'm looking at Henry Rollins. Maybe it's like he could. He
looks like
Henry Rollins.
He looks like when
dad.
Liam Neeson played Hannibal in the A-Team movie. That's what he looks like.
Yes, absolutely.
But anyway, I mean, like, clearly, obviously, this is part of the film's agenda to sort of take what is ostensibly a domestic social problem and to scapegoat it using foreigners, right? So there's a British guy in charge of the rehabs. There's a Japanese guy with a crazy robot controlling things in the shadows in OCP.
Right. Because in 1993, British people and Japanese people, they just pose as the evil people.
Yeah, well, if Japan wasn't a threat, we definitely weren't a threat in 1993. In the doldrums of the John Major years, no way.
Yeah, we were. It's funny because you can use someone like John Castle as the stand-in for evil, because British accent. But this is also in the middle of us falling in love with like Kenneth Branagh and Emma Thompson.
Yeah, it's odd. Yeah, definitely. It's. I mean, again, culturally, there's a lot to say about that, isn't it? Sort of like, going back to the American Revolution, like it's your enemy, but your enemy is also yourself, right? It's like, so it's kind of like there's always going to be that duality there.
Yeah,
they're going to be the worst villains, but also the best heroes.
I have a note here that, like, because it's shortly after Nancy Allen's death, and they have to go back. They go further down into the sewers, and they're running away from the Nazis.
Yeah.
And I have a note here that this was Stephen Root's biggest moment of going to the overacting school.
Yeah.
That I just thought was gold to see such a great actor overact so much in a moment. To me, was delightful. And
also, like, even when this film, because there's not much to suggest that Stephen Root is the traitor.
No, yeah.
And yet, I absolutely knew it was him. And even when this film is covering its tracks, it can't keep its bad screenwriting tendencies.
Right. Because there's
subconsciously, it's like, well, yeah, it's got to be him.
Yeah.
But I don't know why.
Because there's a moment fairly early on where I can't remember if it's the cops that mention it first or if it's the actual Nazis
John Castle says, "I have a spy."
Yeah. Okay. So he says, "I have a spy,"
and then immediately in your head you
think
Root.
It has to be Stephen Root. Who the fuck else would it be?
Is this about when they go into Christmas Tree Hammock Town?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I just like that description.
Yeah, I couldn't. That's what it is. I can't think of any other way to describe it. It's some kind of shanty town based around Christmas trees and hammocks.
Yeah.
This is where we have the dominoes in the game saying, which again is not a saying.
Right. I have some notes that because this is. Does something go wrong at Omnicorp? Because.
Well, Johnson's in charge. So.
Right.
But, no, Rip Torn's in charge. So yes.
Yeah, Rip Torn's in charge. We talked about that in the ranking episode.
We did. It has no bearing on the plot, by the way.
No, not at all. But Rip Torn is in charge of this new Omnicorp, and boy, is he arty.
He's arty, and also his character from 30 Rock combined.
Yeah, there you go. That's good.
Which is to say, he is Rip Torn. I guess the other thing that
but something goes wrong
Men in Black, right?
Something goes wrong. Yeah, something goes wrong at the company because I wrote that. Remember when that guy just walks out of the window? There's like suicide comedy in this movie.
Suicide, yeah.
And Bradley Whitford gets fired.
Well, the stock is tanking because Delta City isn't getting built fast enough, right? Because of the.
It's not because a robot goes nuts.
Activism. What, Atomo?
I was trying to remember if the sentry guard did something bad. I can't remember anything.
All of the above are possibilities.
Yeah.
Speaking of Otomo, which we weren't, but I have a note about Otomo here.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about him for long enough. If they were going for...
I want to say it's right around here that he's introduced.
Yeah, well, if they were going for... Well, again, I've got two notes here. Like the first time we see any robotness of him is the jaw displacement.
Yeah.
And it's entirely practical, and I think, it's sort of like, is it to do that in 1993? You really are sort of like banging the practical drum to the point where it looks almost quaint and not at all threatening. And no morphing. I could have sworn we'd get morphing.
Yeah, right.
But we didn't. And then the other part is when Otomo's going around doing his detective work.
Yeah.
Detective Otomo.
I like when he finds that map. Or the
map, yeah. Right? Did you notice he's reading that map in a sushi restaurant?
Yeah, I did.
Now, I don't think he needs to eat.
Right, yeah.
So why does it need to be a sushi restaurant, apart from the fact that he's a Japanese robot?
No, yeah, of course. That's the only reason.
If he's not eating anything or drinking anything, he could be sitting anywhere and doing that.
Park bench.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, it is just like this sort of, God, I'm not getting enough Japanese from this character. We need to surround him. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is ludicrous. He's a martial arts robot. How are you not getting enough Japanese from this guy? The sequence again. This was another half point for me.
Okay.
That was then taken away.
Of course.
With when they're rebuilding Robocop.
See, now that's not a half point for me because I wrote down that we're having repeats of scenes that they knew worked and we liked from the first movie.
Okay, so that's what I couldn't remember. They do the same POV thing. Okay, so that's a callback to...
And you kind of get it in the second one when they're tearing them apart.
That's minus a half point.
Yeah.
Carry on. But the problem I had with it, the reason I took away the half point, which now I'm remembering what you're saying.
Now you're going to take away a full point.
I would have never given. Exactly, it's a full point that it never had. It's buried under lame, like it's done far too comedically for it to be effective. But if it's a pull from the original film, then fuck them altogether.
Yeah, there's so much of it.
If you take some, that and that makes Robocop 2 look better, right? Because there's certain parts of Robocop 2 where they inherit aspects of the original movie but do something with them.
Yeah, because they're tearing them apart.
That kind of work. And this film is exactly the opposite. Right. Whenever
that movie gets a half point because some of those scenes half work.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is when we get into the tunnel of memories.
Well, and this is my
CG sequence.
Yeah. So we have that.
This is where we get our morphing.
Oh, do we?
There's some morphing in there, yeah.
Okay.
But interestingly, not with the Otomo. This is what I mean about missing the point completely. It's the early 90s, so you gotta have morphing. But the morphing's in the wrong place.
Idiots.
In this weird sort of psychedelic sequence. Where we go down the tunnel of his memory, of Robocop's memories.
Of his memories, right.
And see well, this is a big
impact. Yeah, go ahead.
We see the, recap footage from the first film.
Right.
Which conspicuously edits around the presence of
Peter Weller. Right.
It's a really dangerous thing to do when you've replaced the actor.
Well, and especially because no matter what you do in that vein, you're going to remind people of that first movie and that first actor. So it's unwise.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You're not going to... You've failed the demented grandma test at this point. You're going to tip people that this isn't Peter Weller.
Well, then I have my note that this is where the big, fat, stupid attack happens after that,
Okay.
right? Because at first I couldn't remember what that big, fat, stupid attack was, and then I remembered that all the Nazis go down into the sewers.
Yes. That's right.
And
That's right.
my favorite part of it was that Jill Hennessy, who we haven't talked a lot about, but we've said that she's Dr. Lazarus, which is fantastic.
Dr. Lazarus, not a joke.
Right. Dr. Lazarus, not a joke. And then, so we bring up, because one of the things that the gang stole at the beginning of the movie was something that just looked shiny. Just, I think they literally say, I don't know what that is, but it looks good.
Oh my god!
And so when
they don't even know they don't even know what their MacGuffin is.
Yeah, exactly. And so when
at least the characters on screen have to know what MacGuffin they're chasing.
It's just a basic rule.
Yeah. Says on the box, MacGuffin.
Fragile.
So let's take it. Because we're in a film.
So yeah, when Hennessy shows up in their underground lair before the Nazis attack, she says, "Hey, look at this." And they're like, "Yeah, what is that?" She says, "Oh, it's something for Robocop, so he can fly around." How do you know that?
Right, it's
because I designed
his new bit of kit, right?
Yeah.
So even when he's not a toy in this film, we treat him like he's a toy.
Right.
He's just got he's got this accessory.
It does not help that accessory looks very much like Buzz Lightyear's wings when they expand out.
And of course, when it comes to fruition, it's an early example of he flies now.
Mm-hmm.
Of they fly now,
Yeah.
This is the pool of mediocrity from which J.J. Abrams has drawn, right? This is where he goes for inspiration. Robocop 3, everyone.
It's been at least a couple episodes.
That's how we ended up with Rise of Skywalker.
It's been at least a couple of episodes since you drummed poor J.J. Abrams.
J.J. Abrams left his TV on late at night, saw this, and he had a nearly 3-hour movie to make.
Fantastic.
With no story left.
Right. Oh, well, why don't we take one last break and then we'll come back and finish up? How about that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think we're getting through.
We're getting
nicely.
Dangerously close to this movie's third act, which is fucking batshit crazy.
Does this? Okay. Oh, we're laying into this piece of shit.
Uh-huh.
But
with cause.
Does it have, like, you said third? Is it a bit? Is it superior in at least structure to Robocop 2?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so, because I have notes
but
here.
It's not terrible. It's not as terrible as other aspects of the film.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's about the best we can do, Robocop 3. Sorry. Sorry, Fred Decker.
It's not our fault.
No, it's not our fault, but I like to be fair.
It's not us, it's you.
And as you can tell with my half-point scheme, I'm really trying to be fair to this film. But it's not making it. It's not meeting me halfway.
Yeoman's effort. And then you ask me a question,
literally not meeting me
and
halfway.
I say, no, that's from the first movie. And you're like, well, fuck them then.
I knew this was too good to be true. It must be a Verhoeven original.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back and we'll finish up with Robocop 3.
I like to think I know something about beer, but nowadays even I get overwhelmed when confronted by the exhaustive selection of craft beers they have at bars, breweries, and even grocery stores. Back in the day you had one, maybe 2 craft beers to choose from, and if you were confused, you ordered a Guinness. But in beerstinations like San Diego, the craft beer options lately are in double, sometimes even triple digits. So what's a beer drinker to do? You need what I need. The Vegas Beer Guys. Your beer of choice should be a perfect blend of malt and hops. And so a live show about beer needs that same balance. And the Vegas Beer Guys matches beer expert Dan Aker with self-proclaimed beer novice Stephen J. Weiss. The results are eminently drinkable. They're on Facebook. They're on Instagram. They'll try new beers. They'll tell you about beer. Think of them as your beer Sherpas guiding you up a foamy-headed mountain to reach the peak of your pint. God, I need a beer.
We're back one last time, ladies and gentlemen, to finish up with Robocop 3.
Can't even get through the title without laughing.
I know. I really can't.
You got that Terry Jones disease of not being able to finish a sentence without laughing.
It's not my fault. It's this movie's fault.
Yeah, it really is. It's not our fault we can't take it seriously.
No. As stated before, you're trying real hard to get so many half points.
It's ridiculous. But, trying to see the part... Because, I don't feel vindictive towards this film.
Yeah, no, I don't either.
Even though it very clearly wasted my time as
right.
a person.
Right.
I don't have a Terminator Salvation type beef against it, but nonetheless, it's poor. It's very poor.
Well, I mean, when we left, we were talking about this big, fat, stupid attack where the Nazis come down.
That's right, yes.
My favorite part of all of that is that Jill Hennessy picks up the kindergartner, the little girl, and puts her behind into like a vent shaft.
Yeah.
With a grate on it in which anybody could see her.
Yes, absolutely.
She's just standing right there in front of them. And what I like is that she, even though it's inexplicable the way it's filmed and shot because Jill Hennessy gets her, and everybody who's charging in can just see what she's doing. But they make it seem like it's covert. And she gets the little girl behind into this vent shaft and closes the sort of gate behind it. But the gate has, bars that are huge. And you can see everything that the little girl's doing, but she runs down into the vent shaft. But my favorite thing is that she comes back. When John Castle enters the room and he's just standing right in front of her, and she comes back and is staring through the grate, and then leaves again, making a ton of fucking noise, but nobody manages to see her, and then she leaves and manages to go to Omnicorp through the vent shaft. That's right,
yeah. Well, she's sort of like, she gets she gets shaft happy, and
right. But again,
she finds it.
It's one of those moments where they don't make it seem that it's happening because she's a computer genius.
No.
It's as though she just found her way there by accident.
Exactly. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have another morality point here. Because
like a point for the movie?
No.
Or a point to make?
No, different. I mean, just as a point of view.
Okay.
Not a scoring point. The rehab unit is set ablaze by the terrorists. Our hero terrorists.
Right.
Now, this again, this unresolved issue is the rehab unit part of the police? Because, and here's one thing, here's the line I was thinking of, which complicates everything. If this line was removed, so much more would make sense. In OCP, they draft in regular cops to the rehab unit. From the ones who've been killed in the various terrorist attacks on police officers that we don't care about.
Right.
Because the police are evil. So when the rehab unit is set ablaze, it's seen as this positive thing, and yet we know because of this line that regular cops have been killed. Like innocent people, not innocent. I mean, people who aren't part of this militarized police unit,
right,
have been blown up. And the movie kind of acknowledged that that's happened without acknowledging the consequences of that choice.
Yes, right, yeah.
So, it's odd.
So that is not.
When we get into this,
that
very
is not
strange...
a point.
No, it wasn't. It was definitely not a point.
Not even a half point.
Not even a half point. Then we get into this weird middle-class sweater-wearing prostitute scene, which I don't know what to make of. It's like, but there's a sex worker who, it's like a sex worker, and it's her first day on the job. And she's like, obviously, she's like just trying to pay some bit. She's got into money trouble and she's paid. So it's like the movie's sort of saying, we don't want to, identify with someone like an actual sex worker. We want a sex worker with deniability. Like just a kind of middle class, fallen through the cracks.
The
kind of
fuck?
person.
Did I get up and make a sandwich? What? I don't remember this.
And I think it is. It's supposed to be like, it was like, in the last film, the sex workers we saw were basically, street hoodlums.
Yeah, right. They were bullies.
Yeah, they were street bully thieves.
Yeah.
Who were like dominatrixy, and this is sort of the idea of like they turn the idea into an innocent victim. But
I'm trying to
I don't
vaguely.
know, maybe I fell asleep and imagined this. But
I'm trying to vaguely. I have a vague memory of. Is it sort of the idea of somebody off the bus from Kansas kind of a thing? And
it's kind of there's lots of lines to the effect of. I'm a sex worker, but I'm not really a sex worker.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
There's a lot of that. It's around the time, I have it at least here, around the time, again, I could have fallen asleep, when Robocop goes into the hotel, where he finds McDaggett in the seedy hotel room. It's just before that.
Okay.
Just before the line, I hope you have insurance.
Place a face. Oh, it's so annoying.
It's dispensable, but I guess it just struck me because of the contrast.
Well, because one of my next
the film bending over backwards to have a prostitute character without committing to what that actually means.
Right.
Which is pretty much everything in this film, right? It's like committing to the idea of it, but not the consequences.
Well, because I was too focused on, because I have a note that is, we have a scene from another movie from 1993. Oh,
we do?
Yeah, where the cops walk out and they're like dropping their badges.
Right.
And it very much reminded me of the football players that wouldn't play without Rudy. And they all put their jerseys on the coach's desk.
Well, I mean, there's a more direct reference, which is Dirty Harry.
Just Dirty Harry himself, but not the whole unit, not the whole police force.
No, but the fact that they're dropping the badge, I mean, that's doing a Dirty Harry, isn't it?
I guess, but I took it more because we're...
I don't know why you've gone to footballers before cops. But carry on.
Well, I took it more as Rudy because they're all in it together, as opposed to just the one man putting down his badge.
Yeah, even though these terrorists have killed many of their colleagues.
Yeah, right.
In the annex.
They're going to work with them. There's also this idea that we haven't talked about yet, in which every time we see the Nazis, who look very much like Nazis, on television in the movie, they're saying, yeah, we were doing this and trying to clear people out, but then this accident happened, and it just happens that like 4,000 people died. That kind of thing. And
sadly, is that much different from what the actual news media at our time do?
True.
With police actions.
Exactly. But my point is it's not too hard to see through the veneer of how evil these Nazi cops are, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And yet it doesn't seem as though anybody in the public except the entire town that they're trying to transform is aware.
Who, I mean, to your point, who also watch it on television.
Yeah, right.
And could just look out of their windows and see.
Exactly.
Okay, that's not what's happening, because they're about to blow up the house.
Mm-hmm.
Which
leads them to, you know, bring the gang that even attacked them at the beginning, if they bring them into the fold. Did you notice a background moment when the gang is getting guns from the cops and like gear and stuff? Did you notice this golden moment of the guy with the mohawk trying to figure out how to put the helmet on?
Yes,
with his mohawk.
Absolutely. And, you know, we haven't mentioned the Splatterpunks beyond the name because they really don't. They're like Rip Torn. You could Rip Torn them out of this, and
that's an interesting point. You could take almost everything out of this movie.
It's all a reshoot. Everything exists in different reshoots.
Right. You could take out Rip Torn. You could take out the robot.
The Splatterpunks are drafted in, as far as I can tell, to replace the regular cops who were murdered by our heroes in the terrorist attack on the evil annex of the police station.
Oh fuck!
Because now the regular police are working for them. So the Splatterpunks, which is again just recycling the story of Robocop 2, where the head criminal becomes the head cop. This is where Robocop breaks into the hotel again. Half point. The hotel receptionist just goes, just tells tells them where to go.
But he also says that elevator's broken or something like that, you know?
Well, he says he's just like, oh, he's in room, and I was like, that's funny. That's a funny moment. And then he says, I hope you have insurance.
Yeah, that's
right.
Oh,
for God's sake, let me give you this half point. Stop putting a hat on a hat. There's again, like the best way I can describe the effects in this movie, especially given that it's 1993, 2 years after Terminator 2, is there's just some quaint effects and some real handmade stuff. When the gun is bouncing around in the hotel corridor and it's so clearly on strings.
Yeah.
I just went, aww.
Adorable.
But because it's like, oh, you really want to impress us, don't you? But you don't know how.
And I can say the same for when Robocop starts flying around.
Yes. Oh,
you know?
Fuck, yes.
I mean, I have
the fact that he's flying around in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, that's jumping ahead a little bit, isn't it? But I mean, we're basically.
Oh yeah, because we got to talk about RoboCop in the Pimpmobile.
Fuck, I forgot about that.
You remember?
Yes.
And you mentioned like other movies that this crosses over with, and I'm gonna say that I don't know if you remember the Wayans brother movie. Don't be a menace to South Central while drinking a juice in the hood.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of fake movie posters in that film. One of them is RoboPimp. And it's like, you don't actually have to make up a movie in which RoboCop is in a Pimpmobile. Because RoboCop 3 exists.
Oh, fuck.
And there's like a chain of events that happen following this.
Yes.
Which makes me think that there are certain set pieces that you only get in bad movies. That are like a telltale sign that you're watching a bad movie. Driving a car that's on fire.
Yeah, right.
If you see that, you're not watching a good film. No one chooses to do it in a bad film. I also think people playing hockey for some reason. Batman and Robin. Which is, of course, a good movie.
I was just going to say, what are you talking about? You like that movie.
Pounder gets pounded.
Yeah.
Because this film is determined to kill off as many strong female leads as it can.
It just must.
I'm surprised Dr. Lazarus didn't get it. by the end of the film. So.
I was surprised by that too, frankly. But again, you have a moment of, a really good actor not being able to do good work.
No.
I mean, what does every actor want? A great death scene. This isn't it.
No, it really isn't. Yeah, I think that they, as you were saying about the Lewis scene, I think they're giving these actors meaty stuff to work with, and
right.
they're really not. Hence, Reed and his resignation scene, and him joining the terrorists,
right?
Like, it feels like that. That they're like, well, that gives Sergeant Reed, who's typically underused in this series, something to do. It's like, yeah, it does, but it really feels like you're just trying to give him something to do.
Yeah.
Because you got nothing to do.
Because he has nothing to do.
Yeah. It's like, could he sweep up somewhere? I mean, there's got to be a better use. This is where I have the note that the rehabs are what the neo-Nazis from the Blues Brothers think they look like in their mind's eye.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I just wanted to see John Castle sort of say, "What are you going to do about it, Whitey?"
Whitey? Right.
The best.
You don't like it? No, I don't like it.
Whitey? It's that pause. Yeah, that's the best thing about the Blues Brothers, is the pause that Henry Gibson takes before Whitey.
Because Henry Gibson is Henry Gibson.
Yes. We got to talk about Johnny Rehab, this animated...
Right.
PSA.
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk about it more in the credit check because it's interesting who made it.
Okay.
But, this is like their version of. So they haven't really done the media break thing in this film. This is the only like remnant of that, and they've gone full animated on it again. 1993. We'd like to have animated sequences in films for some reason.
For whatever reason.
And a voiceover that sounds like Martin Sheen. And I thought it, it was interesting. Like, it was there. Basically, they were like, "This is our one bit of satire for the entire film."
This is what
so let's just go to town on it. Let's draft in some animators, and we don't. And it's the early '90s, so we don't mind having extended animated sequences in our films.
In fact, we prefer it.
But this was we haven't talked much about eerie prescience with this film, although we should, because the whole militarized police thing is,
alarming.
Haunts policing until this day. But the anchor who walks off the air refusing to read the
bullshit
copy.
Yeah.
And I mean, this has happened in recent years when the companies that own the news stations have given the newsreaders,
nonsense,
fake news, misinformation, and most of them have just read it as if it's copy, but others have sort of like protested against it. So it's kind of again, like I don't think it feels like an accident, but still.
But you're gonna give a half point. At least.
Because I don't think it's in any way intentional. But I just let's say history gives it a half point.
All right, fine.
But I'm not gonna do it. Oh God, this is where I have the note. It's so weird that we've talked about this already, but I didn't realize I had a note about it. When Reed takes control of the terrorists, when he starts to lead the I don't know what you call it, the line of defense. I wrote, this feels like this film could be much the same if Robocop wasn't in it.
Yeah, right.
And when Peter Weller didn't want to come back, they could have just done Robocop without Robocop.
Right.
And it wouldn't really have affected the film.
Sergeant Cop.
The Robocop Forever.
Yeah.
It starts with a 10-minute funeral for Robocop. I'd watch that, actually. He's as irreplaceable as Chadwick Boseman. Um, yeah, this is when we've caught up with your note about this is when he flies.
Oh man,
it's what we do in sequels when we run out of ideas. People start flying around.
Is that? Yeah. Are
We've
there
seen
other
a few
examples of
of
flying around?
Well, Rise of Skywalker, we had one more recently. We had
Really?
was it Star Trek or no? Was it?
You can't count
may have
space
even been
movies. Of
Return
course,
of-
they're flying
It may
around.
even been Return of the Jedi. Well, let's keep an eye on it.
All right.
Two
We'll keep a
examples is
lookout.
enough. Where you gotta go. Two examples in the third installment of a.
Right.
It's gotta be, it's a little bit of a giveaway. And now there's lots of Atomos, having thought that there was
Yeah,
only
right.
one.
So there's multiple Hitomos, but one of my questions for you, this last portion of the
So
film,
stupid. Yeah,
it
it's so stupid.
it's so dumb. But is it dumb enough to become almost that? Like, does it even get close to so bad it's good? I think I'd have to watch it again.
Yeah.
Because it did not strike me the first time I watched it.
Then I'll say no.
Yeah.
If those are my options, watch it again and reconsider, or no.
Just the last part, not the whole movie.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I like with sublime so bad it's good. There has to be a level of sublime.
Yeah,
Kind of
there's not that.
And I'm still thinking about the incompetence, because think how many at this point in the film, how many independent storylines are running in parallel.
Yeah,
Like everyone's paired off into their own little part of the film.
right.
There's no connection between any of these storylines. So, but the mass-produced Atomo's kind of like it's almost there.
That's the only part of it, though.
But it feels a bit desperate as well. It feels like, well, what do we do with it now? What do we do with this guy now?
Well,
I don't
it's
know, there's a lot
also
of
yeah. The one of the problems with it is you bring up something that you're going to have to resolve 3 minutes later.
Yes, completely.
So
This is where someone actually calls Robocop Tin Man, I think, in this portion of the film,
I think you're right.
which I think is funny given that
Oh, but we haven't even.
that's what we said about him in the last film.
Yeah,
He's a
right.
Tin Man.
But
Go on,
to,
sorry, we
to
missed
your
something.
point about the disparate storylines, because we forgot to mention that Jill Hennessy, she's kidnapped. She's taken to Omnicorp.
Yeah.
For some reason, the child has found her way through the vents into the building.
That's right.
And it's, she's looking like somehow she, again, a grate that you can see right through. And Jill Hennessy's locked in a room. And she says, "Hey, can you do this?" She's like, "Of course I can do that. I have my laptop." And so
right.
she's able to,
What's a sine wave?
yeah, send out a message that encourages the cops to join with the terrorists, because this is the only time in the recorded history of the city of Detroit that apparently, because Jill Hennessy does this, the public at large can realize that Omnicorp's not so good, that they're liars and they're selling you, a garbage idea.
Right. And Rip Torn is apparently to blame.
Who's to blame?
Rip Torn is apparently to blame.
Yes, right.
And not Mako, who's in charge of Rip Torn, which doesn't really make sense.
This is the part that I don't understand. Like, why is it that it's Mako
he's the
that's
fall guy. Yeah.
it's Mako that sends his evil robot to go kill Robocop,
Yes, I know. I thought
and
that
yet
too.
when Robocop bests him and all of his duplicate buddies, while getting rid of John Castle, while simultaneously saving the little girl and Jill Hennessy, who found their way up to the 30th floor for some reason, on the magical wings of his goddamn jetpack. that afterwards he and RoboCop, Mako and RoboCop kind of share a, sorry, like, we're good now.
Yeah. Which is sort of like, yeah, and I mean, there's a lot to say about that bow.
Right, yes,
The first being is like, they're clearly trying to say something positive about Japanese culture, but they can't do it without stereotyping it horribly.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a line earlier in the film which I think they think takes care of all this.
Okay.
But absolutely doesn't. Where John Castle, as British Nazi, says to Mako via the speak and spell translation bot.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter because he speaks perfect English.
Right.
It says to him, "That was the deal. That robot stays out of my way," which is also made me switch. Which was what initially created my suspicions that he was a reshoot character, because it's like, don't you make that storyline come anywhere near me.
Don't you make that part of your movie any part of my movie.
So I think they think Otomo is.
Is Otomo the thing that blows up? What blows up?
Completely autonomous.
Okay.
To whatever else is going on. Again, I think they think that takes care of the problems you've cited, but it really doesn't. Because we don't understand what Otomo is or what his plan is either.
What is it that's exploding at the end? Is there a bomb? What is the bomb?
Which bomb are you talking about?
When they have the explosion in the building where he flies the child and Jill Hennessy out of the building.
Oh!
What is it that's blowing up?
Is that the rehab unit? Blowing up? No. No, it's way
No, because it's inside Omni. It's at, like, corporate headquarters.
Isn't it some sort of leftover bomb from earlier
I guess. I don't. Well, all I remember is this very awkward moment. Like, this movie is so poorly done that there's this awkward moment where I think John Castle, does he get his legs burned from the jetpack?
Don't remember that at all. But yeah, no, maybe that's true.
So he falls to the ground and he's crawling towards the countdown clock of whatever it is that's about to explode is going to explode. And so what I love that there's this moment where he's very close to it and you see the reach out, you know, and his hand comes out like, I'm gonna try to get it. And when they go back to the clock, it says like 5 seconds. And then we cut to an explosion.
Yeah.
So the movie's so clunky and awkward that all I could keep thinking is, he had 5 seconds left. He was right there. He absolutely could have stopped that bomb from bombing.
Right.
Anyway.
It's like no one thought to film that insert of 1 second.
Yes, right, exactly.
Again, they forgot to bring the chess set, so they had to do a dominoes analogy.
They had to do the dominoes.
Forgot to film the 1 second, so the 5 seconds gonna have to do. We settled for less.
And then I wrote down more flying for the save, so he gets because he gets the girl and Jill Hennessy. And but that CGI flying, that's just some of the worst effects I've ever seen.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
And I mean, before we even get inside the building, when the cops are fighting with the Nazis on the streets, and RoboCop comes in with like the sort of soaring music, the soaring music doesn't go well with the really, really, really bad effects.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. I think we've seen this in the early 90s. You're in this transitional period where you don't know whether your go-to is practical or digital. And this film shows evidence of that as well, like not quite knowing what is the best. I mean, you've got Phil Tippett there, so that would suggest to me do everything stop motion, but what do I know? But I think, the shadow of Terminator 2 is like,
2,
let's get some computer generated stuff in there. let's see if we can.
No matter what the cost.
Well, that's the way. That's what it seems like. Why? So we haven't talked much about Rip Torn because he has no bearing on this film.
Right.
But he gets fired, and it seems to be he gets fired for suggesting that they gentrify the area, which one, I thought was what they were doing all along.
Yeah.
And two, is exactly it's what I would do in that situation. And that's what what cities subsequently did, right? They just gentrified the area, and then all the poor people had to move out because they couldn't afford to live there.
Yeah.
So not only is
you didn't have to murder the people first.
Right, he gets fired for proposing something which becomes basic economic policy for all major businesses from this point onwards.
And major cities.
Yeah, but I understand him getting fired for the debacle, but the movie makes out that it's this suggestion that let's gentrify things. I'm like, well, that's the only intelligent thing he said. That's this whole time, because that's what's... Anyway.
But he keeps saying it like, Artie... Yeah. What we gotta do is
half man, half cop. Yeah. So Mako bows to Robocop
for reasons I can't figure out, but go on.
And then we get yet another re-inversion of the original ending, which was already inverted in the last film.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's the same ending. It kind of completes the circuit of the trilogy, right? Because it splits the difference between them two.
I was just gonna say.
He says instead of saying, so he says his name is Murphy.
Right.
My friends call me Murphy. You can call me Robocop, which is and also it's like in the second film, it's a joke, right?
Yeah,
it's a fucking joke. But he ends up identifying as Robocop rather than Murphy.
Right, that's
which
the
is
thing.
Where the last film landed. So we're none the wiser about what this guy thinks he is. for the sake of a joke.
We're as clueless as the character is.
Yeah. Also, we can have a last line that they think is cool. Mm-hmm. But it's just like a rejected Don Rickles joke, basically. I'm not fucking saying that.
I'm not saying that bullshit.
I can't say that to Ronald Reagan. What's the matter with you?
Mr. Potato Head would never say that. Although
saying that, I do recall our good friend William Shatner using that line at the AFI tribute to George Lucas.
Mm.
And if you haven't seen the clip of... he's the first speaker at the AFI tribute to George Lucas, and clearly no one had been informed of this in the audience, because he walks out and then it's reaction shots of everyone, including Mark Hamill, going, "What the fuck is going on?" And he starts it as if he the bit is he thinks it's a Star Trek convention,
right? Of course.
So the first thing he says is, "Star Trek changed everything," in front of George Lucas and everyone involved in Star Wars. But he uses that line. I think he says, "Can I call you George?" And George Lucas nods, and he says, "You may call me Mr. Shatner." So it can be done well. It's just not done well here.
No, just not here.
Well, that's the end of the movie for me.
Yeah, me too.
Do you have anything else to say?
But a credit check.
Oh, yeah. Here's something I did enjoy seeing. Is the thick lettering of the...
Yeah, I noticed that.
of the early 90s credits and titles. I really enjoy that. Big fat titles. Everything in this movie is big and fat.
Big fat.
Now, so Frank Miller is credited with story.
So...
But wasn't he also involved in Robocop 2 at some stage?
Yeah. So what I remember the stuff from Robocop 2 in which he wrote a whole screenplay, and then they kept some stuff but like changed most of it. But
I always assumed he wrote the skeleton shooting himself in the head, but maybe that's just wishful thinking.
But I don't remember reading anything about his involvement here. So I don't know what the deal is.
You think if there was a Robocop film he wanted to take his name off, it would have been...
It would have been 3.
This one.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because most of the credits are people involved with other Robocop movies. It just tells you who invented Robocop, who developed it.
Yeah.
Not anyone involved with this movie. So clearly a lot of people wanted their name, wanted to Alan Smithy their way out of the movies. Like, let's just fill it with people who aren't involved with this movie.
We'll talk about the people that built the toys.
I'll go back and research this. I will follow up on this. But is it possible that Frank Miller's idea for Robocop 2 was what eventually became this, and that's why he's credited for story? I'll do some digging.
Yeah, you'll have to research.
Yeah.
Because I won't.
And I won't remember until it's too late. Phil Tippett returns. I don't know what he really does.
It's hard to say.
Everything's sort of the stop motion is a footnote to the computer generated imagery. Mm-hmm. The only thing I can think of is, again, like the Robocop security guard, which is clearly stop motion.
Yeah.
We already talked about Donut Jerk. Another interesting character name is Informative Yuppie. Which is sort of like who is the guy, the yuppie who's the sexist guy talking to Lewis.
Yeah, right.
Earlier in the film. Which is interesting. They didn't even bother to come up with a character name beyond their function in the story. Right. The thing, and also, but I want to say, I get the yuppie part. How was he informative? Like Donut Jerk, I don't think that captures the character. If you'd have put sexist piece of shit in car,
I would understand it.
Yeah.
Maybe they let other children name characters.
But I don't remember him being an exposition dump.
Yeah, I don't either.
They clearly think he is.
Right.
And that's why they put him in the film. So who do you know who is behind the Johnny Rehab cartoon?
Oh, no.
Well, it was made by Rough Draft. It was animated by Rough Draft.
Mm-hmm.
And directed by David Silverman. So that's the company that animates The Simpsons, and David Silverman is one of the directors of The Simpsons.
Wow, yeah, okay.
So they've drafted in, pun intended, the people behind The Simpsons to do parodies of PSAs.
Interesting.
Which is, I mean, The Simpsons has already been on the air a few years at this point, but
sure,
it's right in the same wheelhouse, isn't it? Of like what The Simpsons does.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from all the Poochie stuff, which is not an intentional cross-up.
Everybody should be saying, "Where's Poochie?
Where's Hoochie? Where did Poochie go?" Someone really gave that note at some point on the set of this film.
So, you know what's funny to me is, like, I think, did a writer from The Simpsons watch this movie and then take that idea to write the Poochie episode?
I mean, it's a satire of a certain tendency, right? But with that tendency comes like a whole culture of bad screenwriting that you can lampoon. And I think that's what it's doing there. I'm sure it's not the only example of trying to, like hyping characters before they come on screen.
Right.
But it's so egregious in this. And also, as if you have to hype RoboCop in a film called RoboCop.
Any other notes for you?
No, that's the last of my credit checks. Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know what to say other than we did it.
Yeah, we did it. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
It was, yeah.
It was more fun talking about it.
It was fun to talk. It was more, yeah. It was fun to talk about. Less fun to watch.
Yeah.
So we need to know what you think, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, please let us know if this is your favorite in the series.
Oh, now that would
love
crack
to hear
me
from
up.
you.
I want to hear from those people.
It's
for
happened
sure.
before. It's happened with Rocky 5. You know, we've
Yeah.
gone to town on it, and someone going to act tell that they prefer it to other Rocky sequels.
I'll listen to how wrong you are.
Let's hear from the 6%.
Happily, yeah, right. Let's hear from the 6%. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Send us that email. Send it to everythingsequel@gmail.com. For Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions, Michael Shantz here. I'm from the How Dare You Awards. When you hear us next, we're going to be pitching sequels to this nonsense. So
right.
Strap in. Say goodbye to everybody, Tom.
All right, if you got a Robocop, you got an alien cop, huh? You got a ghost cop?
That's good.
Even the characters in this film can't take Robocop seriously.
Nope.
So why should we?
We'll see if we can take it seriously in our pitches. Stay tuned, everybody.
Also, why is Reed surrounded by this cavalcade of comic characters?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't remember this happening in like...
The other thing I always think about is like Reed and everybody else that has to work at that poor front desk in all of these movies. Whatever cop's working at the front desk, just fucked.
I really think they missed a huge opportunity by not making this about the original Robocop being busted down to security. Just like
Right.
a sad Robocop, like getting coffee from a machine,
sticking that spike of his into coffee machines and shit, you know, for candy bars.
You done fucked up, Robocop 3. You buried the lead.
Now take the gun out of your leg and put it on my desk. All right, ladies and gentlemen, take care of yourselves. Thanks for listening. Pitches coming next.